Hey, it's me, YemmytheFerret here with another episode of YemmyCast, the video game podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube, the OG. If you're listening to this during the... I don't know if I'm going to premiere this one, but if you're listening to it during the premiere, if I do premiere it, thank you so much, welcome. And if you're listening to it on any other platform, I appreciate you nonetheless. Today we got a special episode, not video game related, but sports related, because I don't have a sports podcast yet. It's on the list of things to do for next year. But we are going to talk, yes, we are going to talk about the NFL National Football League, American football. We're talking about the NFL playoffs for 2019 season, which will be, it's come up fast, and oh my gosh, who am I here with? I believe his name was GreedyWaffle.
Close enough. I'll take it.
Yes, we have GreedyWaffle here. Member of the Film Freaks podcast, which airs every other Friday, and
Yes,
a new episode of that came out last Friday, or 2 days ago, which is last Friday, duh, and we talked about The Sting, so if you want to, you can check that out. How are you doing today, Nick?
I'm not doing bad. Playoffs have started. They're here. The most exciting time of year for the football season. I'm ready to go.
Is it true that the year doesn't start until Thanksgiving? Is it true?
For some teams, yes. Some others, it should have started a long time ago.
Some teams are out of the running by the time that Thanksgiving comes around, and
Yeah.
other teams should have probably played better early in the year, but
Yeah.
it is coming down to the wire.
They're like on the borderline, like of making the playoffs, and that's why they say, like the season starts with some teams at Thanksgiving, because that's where the time really crunches, and they got to start playing good and win different scenarios, and it's tough.
Nick, real quickly, for the people who aren't huge football fans, maybe they watch every so often, how does one get into the wild card? How does one get into the bye?
So typically, if you win your division, which is the divisions are set by, I believe, 4 or 5 teams, and you play those teams in your division twice a year. So if you play them and beat them, then you typically, if you have the better record of that division, you get the first round bye. If you don't, I believe, I could be wrong on this, other aspects are just based off of the record and what teams they've beaten, and yep. So usually those who won their division get the first round bye.
So what constitutes a wild card?
So a wild card is one and done kind of games. I mean, they're all one and dones, but a wild card is like, this is your last chance to get into the actual playoffs. It's like an extra game to get into the playoffs. It's sort of like those tiebreaker games, pretty much. So, you have 2 teams facing off, and then the winner of that team goes and plays the team that has the first round bye.
So we're going to talk about each of the wild card games, and we'll also talk about our predictions for the rest of the playoff bracket, all the way up to the Super Bowl, which is on February 2nd this year. Mark your calendars. Usually there's like 2 weeks between the last conference game and then the Super Bowl. So right now, here are the teams that are in the running to get to the big one. We got Tennessee Titans, New England Patriots, Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, Houston Texans, Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, New Orleans Saints, San Francisco 49ers, Seattle Seahawks, and the Philadelphia Eagles. I was about to say Smeagles. Nick, which of these teams that I just named is the most surprising to you to be in this playoff bracket?
I have to go with Tennessee hands down because the beginning of the season, they defeated our beloved Browns in a sad loss, I guess
It was
you
a
could call
blowout.
it. Yeah, it was a blowout. Tennessee blew us out. That kind of sounds weird, but um, so Tennessee, I think, is the most surprising, and I'm only saying most surprising because I say they're the most surprising team of the whole season because they really turned things around. All of a sudden, I think it was week 8, and they just, put the pedal to the metal, and they just have not let go ever since. And that their running back is the leading rusher in the NFL, which he took the title from our Browns running back, who should have had it. If we didn't have an incompetent head coach who would run the football. But they had a QB change in the middle of the season, which I think is the reason why the whole season turned around, because the quarterback that was in before Ryan Tannehill, the Tennessee quarterback, it was not very good.
Yeah, Marcus Mariota, he's one of those guys who's like really up and down. Like some games, like the Browns game, he'll throw for, how many touchdowns was it? Like 4 or 5 touchdowns. And he'll have like those huge 80-yard bombs that are perfectly placed. And then other games, he would get sacked constantly. He would have, his balls would be overthrown, underthrown, just not on target. And I think taking him out of the game was, like you said, the best decision they made. And having Ryan Tannehill in there. Oh, look at him go. He's tackling him. The guy, yeah. He's a really good tackler. But I do agree that they are pretty surprising, but not more surprising than the Philadelphia Eagles, who had a pretty abysmal start to their year. And they landed pretty snugly in the wild card round. They had a pretty easy schedule at the end of the year, and they beat some lemons, but they got beat by the Dolphins. But that's another story. They kind of squealed their way in there. I feel
So
like
did the Patriots. So.
Did they really though?
Yeah, Patriots got beat by the Dolphins.
That's true. But I think the Eagles are the most surprising in this, and I think Wentz, who is their quarterback, I mean, the past, 2 years he's been in the league, or 3, he's been injured for, 2 of those 3. And we've seen Nick Foles take over for the playoffs and into the Super Bowl, as we know from the famous win that the Eagles had over the Patriots. And this time around, it's all Wentz. And it was a little rocky at the beginning, and they've turned it around kind of like the Texans. Not the Texans, the Titans. Pretty impressive, but also, I don't feel like they're going to go far in this bracket.
Yeah. I disagree with the Eagles being so surprising. I mean, they were favored in the beginning of the year because of talent-wise to be in the playoffs. So I'm not really...
What happened to the 88 overall Cowboys, Nick?
Yeah, that's true. They plummeted really fast. But Carson Wentz, like you said, they were destroyed by injuries this year. And Carson Wentz is usually the one that gets injured, so it's quite the opposite kind of weird year for them.
Well, like they were saying on the around the NFL, for some reason the Eagles put in all their bad receivers, and all of a sudden they have this new wave of new fresh talent that's actually catching balls now.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like a revolving door for Carson Wentz, because I feel bad. It's he seems like they have a new receiver each week. They just pick off the receiver marker or something. It's just you're going to be catching Carson Wentz for Carson Wentz this week. But
Nicholas, did you have something else you want to say?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Which of these games, the 4 wildcard games, do you want to start talking about?
Let's start with I think the best one. Let's do Tennessee and New England.
Oh, all right. Well, Tennessee. What is their record this year? I don't see it right now.
I couldn't tell you.
I'm looking for a picture that has. All right, so Tennessee Titans are 9-7. They're going against the 12-4 New England Patriots. Now, we discussed this a little bit over text before we came here, but I do think that the Titans are going to win. It's probably going to be a pretty close game, but I think the Titans are going to win by a little bit of a 3 points, a field goal, Because one thing is, we've noticed this, and we've said this a lot, but the Patriots they go up against these tougher teams and then they lose. They lost to the Texans. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to, I believe they lost to the Dolphins. They lost to the Dolphins, which isn't a good team. So they have the first half of the schedule, they had a bunch of lemons to beat, right? They didn't really put up a fight. The only team that put up a fight against them was the Bills in one of the first weeks. So I feel like with the way that the Titans are playing, they're very explosive right now, and I can see the Titans taking over this game.
Yeah, so the reason I think this game is going to be the most interesting out of the Saturday games, well, I don't say games, there's only two games on Saturday, but it's because we don't know what the Patriots are capable of. I mean, last year we said the same thing as, the Patriots are not looking so good, at the end of the season, they're not going to go far, it's the end of Tom Brady, and then they go and beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So it's either, Patriots are going to lay an egg, and God, I hope they do, or they're just going to come out guns blazing and just, their defense are going to be lights out, because their defense was, the biggest story of one of the biggest stories in the NFL this year, because their defense was so good. And they really kind of slowed down, I guess. But we'll see. I mean, I think the Titans can pull it out. But I do agree with you. I think the score is going to be lower. I'm going to go 17-10.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I think if they win this game, I think the Titans monkier is going to be dropped. If they go all the way to the Super Bowl, then it will definitely be dropped. But yeah. I think if they beat out the Patriots, we can stop calling them the Titans until next year, until we see what they're like next year. But for right now, I think this team has had a new gust of wind, a new breath of life into them, and they're playing 10 times better than most of the other teams in their Division 1 and 2. They're definitely playing with more vigor and more, they're actually getting things done a little bit more than the Patriots have been for the past few games that they played. So I think the Titans have a good chance here, as long as they don't stumble. I think they should be good. Now, like you said, the Patriots defense has been crackerjack this whole year pretty much. Even against better teams, they've been able to stop them. But if the Titans can figure out how to beat the Patriots, just like the Texans and the Dolphins and all the other four teams, the other two teams that beat them this year, I think they have a good chance at taking it home.
Ooh. Now that's a hot take.
Hot. I'm on fire. All right, I'm gonna pick the next one, and I want to talk about the rematch of the decade, which is the Minnesota Vikings versus the New Orleans Saints. So the Vikings are 10-6, and the Saints are 13-3. Am I seeing that right? Yes, I am. Both teams have had pretty good records, but the Vikings and Kirk Cousins have kind of faltered in the primetime slots. And seeing as this is a kind of like a quote-unquote, it's like a normal game, I'm thinking that Cousins is going to be a little bit more comfortable at the 1 p.m. slot. They're at home, right? So I think that the Vikings will be able to come out and put up a fight against the Saints, but...
Saints are at home.
Oh, Saints are at home. I apologize to the sports fans everywhere. So, minus that. But I do think that Kirk Cousins is always a little bit more... ready to play at the 1 p.m. slot. I don't think we've seen him win this whole year when they had a primetime or late game. So I think he's going to play fine, but, come on. You're going up against the Saints and Drew Brees, the record holder for most passing touchdowns. Come on. The Saints all year have looked impressive, even when Drew Brees was out with the strained thumb ligament or whatever it was. Bridgewater took over and he played fine, and they lost to the Falcons, which was a fluke. And now that you look back at it, and they've just been rolling. They got Michael Thomas. He's such an amazing wide receiver. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane what the Saints are doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, the game's at 105, so I don't know if Cousins can handle a 105 game instead of a 1 o'clock game.
Ooh.
But I'm gonna take Saints and kind of a blowout here.
That's what I forgot to mention.
I'm gonna do 48 or not 48, 42, 17 Saints.
Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing.
It's just so dominant, and the Saints are at home, and their defense is the stats. Actually, I saw a stat the other day. It was like their defense is like ranked 2 at home. It's crazy, and it gets crazy loud in that dome. I hear too because it's inside, and so I mean both teams play inside at a dome, but I think Saints have an advantage here.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an advantage when you're at home in a dome.
Dome home.
But I agree. I think the Saints are going to win this one by a large margin. I was predicting like 31-7, maybe 10 if the Vikings get an early field goal or late field goal.
Yeah.
I've loved the Vikings this entire year. You know it. I've talked about it a lot. I love Kyle Rudolph is a great tight end. He's made some amazing catches this year. And even though Kirk Cousins has been up and down, I do like his quarterback skills. But like I said, I think one more year and this Vikings team might be ready to go to the playoffs. But yeah, I think that the Saints are going to dominate. And the reason why we say that it's the rematch of the decade is because 2 years ago, this same matchup happened, and the Saints flubbed hardcore. The Vikings caught a last-second touchdown, and the Saints defender was on the ground for some reason. So the Vikings got the last-minute touchdown, and they won the game in like the last seconds. It was literally like 4 seconds left when they did the final pass. So this is kind of like the rematch of the decade because, you know, Saints are obviously still hurting from that penalty last year that cost them their win against the Rams. Well, I mean, we've already gone over that in the podcast before. We're not going to get into that, but still, it's like, you know, they were kind of screwed last year. Then the year before that, they screwed themselves. So we'll see what happens this year. What's the probability of another bad call going against the Saints in this game?
Against the Saints, I don't know, but I know we're going to see one bad call, maybe more, either in the Patriots game or the Saints game. It's going to be either those two.
Yeah.
I just feel like we're going to get, the call of the weekend,
Sometimes, like we say during the regular season, the refs just need to get out of the way sometimes. I mean, I don't know, early in the season they were calling way too many holding penalties. It seemed like there was like 15 a game. And then late in the season they were kind of like changing up the style of what constitutes as a pass interference call. And it's like, just chill out, we understand you're there and you're paid big money. But is it how many times you throw a yellow flag? Is that how many 10 G's do you get? For every yellow flag, you get 10 G's.
They got to meet their quota for the month. You must throw 5 flags.
We must throw. All right, Nicholas, pick the next game.
Let's do. I think a good one will be the Texans and the Bills.
Hell yeah.
Buffalo Bills.
Bills.
So this is the early Saturday game, I believe. I'm going to say 4:40ish. And then the Saturday night game is the Patriots. So yeah, that sounds about right. See, I don't have the records up or anything, so I don't know any of their stats.
This is interesting because both teams are 10-6 going into the wild card. The only difference between these two teams is one of them has beaten the Patriots. The other team has lost to them twice.
Twice. The Bills play the Patriots twice.
They did.
So, my prediction, I think it's going to be a close one. I'm going to say 21-17 Texas.
Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah, the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
So I like Deshaun Watson. I think he's a very cool quarterback, I guess you could say, as cool, air quotes. I think he's a better quarterback. I think he's a superior quarterback than Josh Allen, Buffalo's quarterback. So I think they have the advantage there. One of their best, one of the best defensive players, J.J. Watt, is coming back. So hopefully he can give that boost to their defense. But the only concern I have about this game is Houston's running game, and their running game is not very good at all.
Yeah, they seem to have only one good running play in a game nowadays. I think
Buffalo has a good running back game, so that's...
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup because the running game doesn't work for Texans unless it's Deshaun Watson running into the end zone. But I had Duke Johnson on my fantasy league this entire year, and he put up some really impressive points. But get this, he only put up points when he caught the ball, not when running the ball. He got like 1 or 2 yards per game when running the ball. When catching the ball, 15, 20 touchdowns, everything. So I think if they utilize that strength, kind of like the Browns have Hunt and Chubb, who can both catch the ball and run pretty well. I think if they do that against the Bills, I think they have a better chance of winning. I think the Texans are going to look at that game where we beat the Bills, and they're going to go, okay, so this didn't work, but passing to our running backs was a nice little trickery in there. So I do think that the Texans are going to win this one. I don't think it's going to be close, though.
No?
The only reason I say that is because we've seen the Bills this year, and yes, they've been impressive. I liked the Bills this year. I followed them a little bit, but there's some games where you expected them to be huge, explosive, touchdowns and field goals, and then they lose. I know they didn't have all their starters in last week, but they lost against the Jets. It's like, okay, they lost twice against the Patriots this year. They lost against the Browns. They lost against some teams that it's like didn't seem like they should have lost against. So I think the Texans are going to bring this one home, and Deshaun Watson's going to light it up just like he did against the Patriots. I think they're going to pull out all the stops, and I think that the Texans are going to win. I'm guessing it's going to be around 32-ish to... I'm thinking that the Bills are just going to get field goals, so I'm going to say 9.
Ooh, 9?
9.
Well, that's all I have to say for that game.
All right, and the last one to go over for the wild cards is Seattle Seahawks versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The two birds of prey clashing.
It's like the Eagles against what's that Lord of the Rings characters? Birds.
Nazgul?
Nazguls, yeah. Eagles versus Nazguls.
So the Seahawks are 11-5, and the Philadelphia Eagles are 9-7. Now I know you're pretty optimistic about the Eagles, your favorite team in the league.
Yeah, here we go. Earlier in the year, it was Detroit. Now it's the Eagles.
But I don't see the Eagles winning this one. I feel like the Seahawks. I think Russell Wilson's gonna walk all over the Eagles defense.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It could possibly be a shootout, but I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Like Wentz is good, but I don't know. I don't think they have long to live in this playoff bracket. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Russell Wilson's going to come out and smack Carson Wentz across the face. Yeah, he's going to come out and smack him. I want to say this is going to be a blowout. I'm going to say 35-13 Seattle. I had to think of the team name. I was like, wait, who are we talking about?
Yeah, I think that it's gonna kind of be like the Patriots and Eagles is Super Bowl, where it's just gonna be a bunch of like big plays, big passes from both sides of the field, and then one team's gonna get the edge over the other one. So I think it's gonna be a pretty close game, and I'm predicting it's probably gonna be. I'm gonna say it's gonna be in the 30s for both teams. But one team's going to win by a touchdown. So I think it's going to be like, I don't know, like 37 to like 31 or something like that, Something like that.
Yeah, that's a big numbers.
Big numbers. So we have a few teams that, of course, got the bye for this week, which means they're not playing. And we can actually talk about them a little bit. And then we can kind of go over our predictions for the brackets. So I'll pick the first team.
Yep.
And I want to talk about those rascals, the 49ers. The The 49ers are 13-3. Every game that they've played has been a spectacular showcase for them. Even games that were like kind of low scoring, like the Redskins game and the Ravens games, they showed a lot of talent, especially in their new rookies like George Kittle and who's the guy on defense? I can't think of his name right now.
Nick Bosa?
Bosa, that's right. I think the combo of those two guys making big plays is going to be the deciding factor of whoever San Francisco faces. Now, I think San Francisco lost to the Seahawks last time they matched up.
No, they won.
Oh, they won.
Yeah.
Did they win by like a field goal? Is that it?
Yeah. Seattle had a goof. It was like a game of the year, though. I think they just played last week. I think, right?
It was relatively recent.
Yeah, Seattle had the ball at the 1 yard line as time was ticking down, and they forgot to hike the ball, and they got a delay of game that moved them back to the 6 yard line, and the Seattle couldn't get it in after that, so they won the game. Or San Francisco won the game, but they had a meeting earlier in the year, which was also quote deemed game of the year, where Seattle won by a touchdown.
Yeah, so I think if Seattle does move up in the bracket, I think that it could be another like game of the year contender. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
But the San Francisco this whole year has been very competitive, very aggressive on the defensive side of things. They swallowed the Browns whole when we were playing against them, and you can chop it down to a bad offensive line for us, but you could also just say like Nick Bosa was a freaking shark in the backfield, just always back there in Baker Mayfield's face. And that's the story for most of the games that they've played. And I think the 3 games that they lost, it was still like a really close, competitive, nail-biting end to most of those games. And, I mean, San Francisco is definitely a contender for the best team this year to be at the Super Bowl, but we'll see what happens because, you know, every week's a little bit different for these teams. Some teams, they come off of a bye and they're like, oh, well, that was a great week rest, and then they can't get into the game. And I think that sometimes it's better to play in the first round, especially if you're a team that's red hot, like, you know, the Eagles are right now, or like how the Titans are. You know, they need to keep the blood flowing. They need to keep going week to week to keep it up. And then some teams get the bye and they come into the next game and they're just a little bit behind. You know, they're a little lagging behind a little bit.
Yeah, it will. I really hope we get another matchup of this because it'll be the most watched like playoff matchup, just based off of their 2 games they had earlier in the year because they're in the same divisions and San Francisco won the division, so they get the first round bye. Yeah. So I think it'll be an intense, like, I want to say either a field goal or maybe even close to like a missed extra point, so a 1-point win. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how, like, same level those 2 teams are. Like, it's crazy how, like, just how talented they are.
So I think we're both locking up San Francisco versus Seahawks next week.
Yep.
It's no doubt in my mind there. No doubt in my mind there.
Who you got winning?
See, I want to say the 49ers, but like I just said, I think that the Seahawks are going to come off of a win against the Eagles. They're going to be red hot, and it's going to be a close game, but I think the San Francisco's kicker, the 49ers kicker, is going to flub like he did the past few times they've lost, and the Seahawks are going to win it. That's what I'm thinking.
I agree with that. I think it'll be another close game. I think depends where they play it at. I mean, if it's in Seattle, it's going to be cold, it's going to be wet. And San Francisco doesn't like that. But if it's at us, I think it is at San Francisco since they have the bye. I think they have the home.
Yeah.
So it will be in San Francisco, cheese. So it would be nice. But Russell Wilson is like the best road quarterback, or Seattle's like the best road team this year. Like, I think they won the most road games than any other NFL team. So you never know. This is why it's going to be the most highly anticipated matchup.
Yeah. On the odd chance that the Eagles win, 49ers taking that home?
Oh, yeah. It'll be like 62 to like 2.
All right, let's move on to. Oh, you pick the next team, Nick.
I'm going to talk about a team that, in my mind, doesn't deserve to be where they're at. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers.
The Packers have had 13-3, so they haven't lost many games this year. But you don't hear a lot of people talking about them. I don't know if the wins just aren't impressive or what.
There's nothing to talk about.
There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, so somehow they won the division. I don't know. So they got the first round bye. So based off of our prediction, if the Saints win, Saints will have to go to Green Bay. Probably be snowing by then, mid-January. So it has to be snowing, right?
Yeah.
Global warming, yeah. Who knows? It'll probably be like 70 degrees by then. But so they'll have to go to Green Bay to play the Packers. So I think it'll be actually advantage to the Green Bay, but I think the Saints will still pull out the W.
Yeah, I think if it's snowing, I think the Saints are gonna stumble a little bit. They are used to playing in that dome, and a lot of the teams that are in their own division, like it's all sunshine states. You think about the Falcons, Georgia, oranges come from there, right?
Yeah.
It's a very sunny state. So I think if the Saints go to Green Bay and the weather is snow or a mix of like snow and rain or something like that, I think that's really going to affect the Saints, and I feel like Green Bay could pull out a win with that because you've seen teams go up against Green Bay in the snow. Who wins? Green Bay wins.
Usually,
it's like they're made for it, you know? They don't have a dome.
Browns played them, you know.
No, the Green Bay doesn't have a dome. They don't need a dome because they're trained outside. They're trained to play in those really bad weather conditions. And really, I think if the Saints do go up against the Packers or the Vikings, I think the weather is going to be the biggest factor in that game. There's no doubt in my mind that whatever team goes up against Green Bay, if it's snowing, Green Bay I think will be winning that game. I know you probably wouldn't agree with that. But
I don't agree with that. I think the Saints will pull it off somehow if they face Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Because to me, the Packers are very like two-factor team. It's either they're running the ball or the passing, which sounds kind of like what else is there to do? But it's like their team is mostly run heavy because Aaron Rodgers has not been looking too good this season. Like he's been looking like he's throwing missing targets by like 5-10 feet. I think that's where Drew Brees, who's looking red hot right now, comes in and seals a victory, like a 7-point or 10-point victory.
I don't know. I have Green Bay winning by a touchdown in my book. If I had a book.
Okay, there you go. Mark it down. Our first difference.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, like, it's a lot of times these teams that everyone's like, oh, I don't know how they got here. Kind of like the Patriots last year. They come out and they win a game or two in the playoffs, and then all of a sudden it's a Green Bay versus whoever Super Bowl, and everyone's like, what? And then the Super Bowl is like a blowout, because that team shouldn't be there. But
if Green Bay goes to the Super Bowl and wins, I'll buy you a PS5.
Okay, I'm marking that down in my book, and I actually have one.
There you go.
All right, I think it's my turn to pick a team.
Yes.
And I think we're going to save the biggest boys for the end. So let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. They're 12-4 this year. And besides from a few scary injuries on the team, they look pretty good. They've been getting hot when it's the right time at the end of the year here, even though they weren't ever cold per se. But they did lose a few games that I felt like. Well, one, it was because of injuries. Mahomes got injured like twice during a few games, and he was sporting that ankle injury, and then he dislocated his knee, right, during that 1-yard QB sneak. Yeah. And I think that was good for him, though, because he was really banged up. You could see him waddling around on that ankle. Like, he had the bubble butt because he was hurting so bad. He was hunched over at times. And I feel like the injury, even though it's bad, I feel like was good because it took him out of the game. It let him rest. There was nothing he could do, so he couldn't force his way onto the field as some quarterbacks can, where they talk the coach into it. And I think that was good for him because he came back and he's as hot as ever. I mean, not like as hot as you would say like last year, but he's still putting up good numbers and he's throwing really, really insane throws, even if they are a little bit far and in between. And come on, that running game has actually been pretty strong for them recently.
Yeah, I agree with that. Kansas City, I think is one of my favorites to go all the way. But yeah, they have. I think they lack. I mean, they have a good tight end. They're like the 49ers. They have a good tight end. They have a decent receiver. I wouldn't say like the best receiver, but I think San Francisco's receivers are better. But they have that one guy on the receiver that runs like a 3.9 in like a 40-yard dash in like 3.9 seconds, it seems like. And he's really fast. They call him the cheetah because he's so fast. So it's going to be really tough for, those cornerbacks to like lock him down. So if they can get him going, and then if they could, like you said, the running game stays strong and that tight end does good, I think they could blow this game out of the waters. So, based off of our prediction, they would be facing the Titans.
That's right. They would be facing the Titans. And I was about to ask, do you think that this game would be better or worse having the Patriots in the slot against Kansas?
I think it would be worse because Kansas City played Patriots earlier in the season, and I don't think it was even a close matchup, if I recall. I think Kansas City won by a few touchdowns.
Yeah, I can't remember. Right now. But so you're saying it would be better for them if the Patriots were in it, or would you think that it's a revenge game for the Patriots?
Let's see. No, so Kansas City lost against the Patriots.
Oh,
yeah, 37-31.
Well, either way, if the Patriots go against the Kansas City Chiefs next week, it is kind of like another matchup of the decade because last year the Chiefs lost only because they lost the coin toss in overtime. And it was crazy. Like we were saying last year, you pass to Edelman during the playoffs, he catches the ball no matter what. It's crazy how well Edelman catches the ball. So yeah, I think the Chiefs could beat the Titans, but if the Patriots slide in there, I think we're looking at another, one touchdown decides the game kind of game like last year. Yeah,
overtime. Let's see. If the Titans make it in, I think it will be a shootout between Patrick Mahomes and the Titans. I would say like maybe high 30s, low 40s and the Kansas City wins by a field goal. However, with the Patriots, I think the Patriots will pull it off with like an overtime touchdown or a field goal at the end.
Yeah, I can see it. I can definitely see it, and I think I agree with you on that one. All right, Nicholas.
All right. Last but not least, the most what's the word I'm looking for? Explosive. Electric team this season. Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. So they, Baltimore Ravens looks so good right now. It's kind of scary how good they are.
Yeah.
So based off our predictions, it would be Texas versus Baltimore.
Yeah.
So I think that would be another interesting matchup, but I think Baltimore would have the advantage here. I think just Baltimore all around, better coached, better defense, better offense, better quarterback. So I would take the Baltimore by, I would say, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Ravens are 14-2 this year, and they're 14-2 for a good reason. I mean, they've played great football, and really, the loss against the Browns was kind of a fluke, let's be honest here. It was like a ray of hope that gave Browns fans like, oh, look at this, and then the Browns like lost like 5 games in a row or something like that. But the Ravens, like as we said before, they're scary. They play great football. Lamar Jackson is crazy. He breaks people's ankles all the time.
Football.
Smart, yes,
smart football.
They have a bunch of great receivers in their ranks too. And they have a pretty good running back as well. Even though they of course, Lamar is going to want to run the ball himself more so than running with a running back. I think that the Ravens are like an all-around threat, both defensively and offensively. And I think all their players kind of know their job. They know what they got to do to win, and they get it done. Even in the most sticky of situations, they're pulling out the wins like no one else has ever seen. And yeah, if the Texans do continue on to face the Ravens, I think it'll be like Ravens like in the high 30s to a Texans team who's stumbling and falling, because we've seen it before. Like I said when we were talking about the Texans beat the Patriots, and it was crazy. And then they went and they lost to Denver.
Yeah.
How's that work? Full strength, all their starters in, they lost. So I feel like Texas is gonna give it their all against the Bills, and they're gonna make it to that next round. They're gonna be all pumped up, and then the Ravens are just gonna smack them. They're just gonna put them down. So I think it's gonna be like Ravens 41 to Texans like 13, 14. I just don't. I don't know, because like you said, I think Lamar Jackson's obviously better quarterback than Watson, even though they're similar in styles. I think that the Texans will definitely falter against the Ravens. And I have the same prediction if the Bills win. If the Bills win, the Bills don't stand a chance against the Ravens, especially because Allen is fumbling the ball constantly. Even though he's been a little bit better, it's still, I can see him fumbling the ball like 5 times in the game, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, yeah, fair enough. All right.
Who's going to the AFC Championship?
Oh, jeez.
Well, I'll start with mine. So I think it's definitely going to be the Ravens in the first spot.
Yeah, I agree
and
with
in
that,
the second spot, I think that the Chiefs are going to pull it up. They're going to pull up their pants. They're going to say last year was our year and we failed, and they're going to fix all the problems they had with last year. And in overtime, they're going to beat the Patriots. And they're going to go on to the Baltimore Ravens, and they're going to say, "Ha, we're here because we deserve to be here." And the Ravens are going to be like, "Well, us too." And it'll be the game of the century.
Yeah, I agree with that. So let's start with that. Yeah, I mean, they met earlier in the season, and it was a wonderful game. It was 27-24, I believe. Kansas City won by a field goal. So right now, Kansas City has the upper hand going into this game if they do meet each other again. Mm-hmm. But I think Baltimore also had a fluke, because that was also earlier in the season when they lost. So they lost, to a fluke again, I guess you could say. And I think since the Kansas City Chiefs had played Baltimore, they're just a whole new dynamic team, and I just don't think Kansas City's defense got what it takes to stop Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very close game if they both get there. I mean, unless something happens. Unless something happens to some key players on either team, I think that both teams are going to go at it, and it's going to be like a nuclear bomb dropping in that stadium when one of those teams wins, because it's
Tom Brady dropping nukes.
So let's see, what would the most unlikely AFC playoff be?
Titans and Patriots. Oh wait, no, they can't play each other. Let's see, most unlikely. Texas and Patriots.
Well, I was thinking Titans and Bills.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
That's the most unlikely two to get there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that'll be kind of crazy.
That'd be weird. Like, man, that'd be super weird. Yeah, I think that's it for the AFC, right? Is there any other team that you can see going against the Ravens in the AFC Championship?
I can see Patriots making it in, but yeah, no, not really. Because if the Patriots make it in, then they'll beat out the Chiefs, so they would play each other. So that'll be yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the NFC. So, top dog. Who's getting to the NFC Championship?
I'm gonna say Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, versus
New Orleans Saints.
That's my boy.
Wait, you said you wanted
No, I didn't
Green
say
Bay.
I wanted the Packers to win, but I said I think that the Packers, if the weather is in their favor, will win that game. I want the Saints to get to the Super Bowl. That's who I want to get to the Super Bowl. But I think that if they face the Saints in bad weather, I think Green Bay has a little bit of an edge, and I think that's just enough of an edge to put them over the top.
Okay,
but if it's
so
sunny
we'll get your
the,
prediction with the Saints, then we'll get your predictions with the Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers.
I think who's getting to the NFC Championship? I definitely think that it's going to be the 49ers against the Saints in the end.
That'll be another light-up show.
Right. But I do think that the Saints can beat out the 49ers. I do think that. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a great quarterback, and he's done some great things this year. But I think that Drew Brees and the dominant offensive unit that they have and the dominant defensive unit they have will just shut them down. And if the Packers get there, I think that San Francisco moves on to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, sure.
If the Seahawks get there, I think it'd be a little bit of a closer game with Green Bay, but I think the Seahawks would still win it. So I think either way, if the Packers do get to the Super Bowl, I'm not the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship, I think that whatever team going against them is going to win. But if it's the Saints going up against the Seahawks or the 49ers, I think the Saints are going to take them to town. And if it's the Eagles, definitely the Saints will take them to town.
If it's the Eagles, jeez,
if it's the
Eagles make it this far.
Sorry, Andrew, but we're just speaking the truth here. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
So, as I said earlier, we think it's Seattle and Saints. I think the Saints will take it in high colors. I don't think it would be too close. I mean, I say blowout as in like 38-24. I think that's a blowout. I mean, still a few touchdowns, maybe 42. No,
well, it depends. If they
24.
score all the touchdowns at the end of the game, then it's still a blowout. But I think
Yeah,
if they're still competitive during the game.
Anyways, the Saints will move on to be the NFC champions. However, if somehow the 49ers do make it, I think 49ers will squeeze one out again against Drew Brees again. So I think it'll be another close battle. I think San Francisco would win by a touchdown.
Ooh, okay. Just like with the AFC, what's the least likely NFC matchup you can think of?
Eagles and honestly, I have to say Eagles and Green Bay.
Oh, all right.
Or no, Vikings, because they would
Vikings?
play each other. Yeah, Eagles and Vikings.
Well, I think the most unlikely is the Eagles versus the Vikings too. That's the only thing I can see here, because like I said, it's all about the weather with the Packers. You know, the Packers play better in the snow, and if they do somehow manage to get Mother Nature to be on their side, I think the Packers could make it to the NFC Championship. But on the other end of the spectrum, I just don't see the Eagles getting anywhere against the Seahawks or the 49ers. So least likely definitely would be Eagles versus Vikings. Second to that would be Eagles versus Packers. You know, just because.
Oh yeah, jeez.
Yeah.
What a dumpster fire that would be.
So let's predict the Super Bowl. Who's going to be the Super Bowl? What is it? What's the number this year?
LIV. See, can you do the math?
Okay, so L is 50, right?
Yep.
And IV is 4, so 54.
Are you sure about that?
IV, right?
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure.
Are you positive? Are you putting all your money down on it?
All $0.
All $0. Because you are correct.
I knew it.
Yeah, it'll be Super Bowl 54.
54.
55.
All right, Nick. Who's duking it out?
Oh, man. I mean, I don't know about the AFC. I am so, distraught on the AFC. It's either the Chiefs or Baltimore. But I'm going to go with Baltimore. And I'm going to have them face Saints in Super Bowl 54. Baltimore versus New Orleans Saints.
That's funny because that's the same thing I have.
Yeah, I mean, I want to put Kansas City, but I don't know. I just Baltimore is so good, so much better, so much put together as a team than Kansas City is. I mean, if Kansas City goes in the Super Bowl, it's because some stupid call, I want to say, or something. I mean,
a 60-yard field goal like the Rams against the Saints last year, or something absurd like that.
But I'm gonna go with Baltimore and Saints, and I'm gonna say Baltimore wins by a blown call against the Saints.
Ooh.
It'll be a big controversy again, and Baltimore wins 27-21.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have the same two teams written down, Ravens and Saints, and I do think that it's gonna be a really close match, and I think it's kind of gonna turn out like not 2 years ago, but actually, never mind. Forget I said that. I think it's going to turn out kind of like last year, where it's not a high-scoring game, but the scoring that does happen is big plays, like Lamar Jackson running for 50 yards to get a touchdown, and Drew Brees throwing a bomb that's perfectly timed to someone who's just inside, the
Thomas.
The touch. Yeah. So I'm thinking it's going to be like a 17 to like 14 victory or something like that. Where
as long as it's not 6-3, I don't care.
I think the Saints are gonna, Drew Brees. This is probably one of Drew Brees' last years, and I think that this is their best chance to get to that sweet win in the Super Bowl. And I think that they're gonna take that and they're gonna ride with it. And the Ravens are going to put up a big fight. Like there's going to be interceptions on both sides. There's probably going to be a fumble ball here or there because of just how aggressive both these teams are. And I feel like the Saints are just going to be a little bit more aggressive, and the Saints are going to win just by a small margin. There's going to be a big ending field goal or a big play at the last second, because we saw it against Saints versus Texans early in the year. That was a huge game with so many twists and turns.
That was the first Monday night game of the year.
Right, and the Saints came out, and Drew Brees threw one last throw at the end of that game, and it was a perfect dime to his wide receiver, and they got the finishing touchdown. I think that's kind of how this game's going to turn out at the end of it all.
All right. Least likely matchup.
Least likely matchup.
I'm going to go Patriots and Packers.
Oh, well, see, I was going to say Bills versus Eagles.
Oh, no one's going to watch that.
That'd be quite the change of events, though. That would definitely be an interesting matchup, but not one that like everyone would go all out for. I think Saints or 49ers versus Ravens or Chiefs or Patriots, I think people go all out for those. Mm-hmm. But having like those two lesser teams going up against each other would probably be, I don't know, just not really disappointing, but I don't think the game would be that interesting. I think it would be another situation where it's like both teams are just like stumbling around, don't know what's going on. They're like, "Why? How did we get here?" What?
I think if Kansas City somehow beats Baltimore and pulls it off and goes Super Bowl against Saints, I think Kansas City would win it. I think Kansas City would they'll come off that win and just be lights out. I think they would win by at least 10, maybe 14 points against Saints. So that's why I'm so distraught about the AFC, because I'm not sure. I was like, Baltimore or Kansas City? I don't know.
I'm about to darken your whole world. What if the Patriots do it again? They beat out the Titans, and in the same fashion they beat the Chiefs in overtime. Here they are going to the Super Bowl. They beat the Ravens too, and then here they are going to the Super Bowl again. And who would be the best matchup for them to take it home?
I think Saints would best up for the Patriots to win it all.
Yes.
I think
out of the teams that we think could get there,
probably Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah. It'd be like a rematch of the decade. Oh my gosh, I've been saying that a lot. Yeah, I feel like if the Patriots do get there, I feel like they're going to have some sort of magical luck. And, the Packers are going to get to the Super Bowl or something stupid. And they'll be like, okay, let's just run over these guys and get one last, Super Bowl win before next year people start saying the same thing about us,
Yeah.
But the biggest difference I see this year with the Patriots, and I might have said this last year, but one, they didn't have a tough schedule. Let's take half of those wins away because they were against the Jets, the Browns, the Dolphins the first time around, everything like that. Look how they played in the beginning of the year, so explosive, so dominant, because they were playing against teams that weren't as well coached, didn't have a good attack, they didn't have the parts that they needed yet. And then look at them in the second half of the season. They're playing against the Texans and they lose. They played against the Dolphins and they lose. They played against, whoever. I see a different team than what we saw at the beginning of the year. And I don't know if it's just because they're getting tired, if they peaked at the wrong time, if, the defense is starting to falter because of injuries or something like that. Maybe Antonio Brown took a lot of the pizzazz out of the team when he was let go from the team. I don't know. The difference between this Patriots team and the last 5 years, they don't feel like they have the energy to get through a brutal playoff like this is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So it'd be crazy to see the Patriots at the Super Bowl again, but I doubt it more and more as I watch these games that they played against. I look at the schedule again. I look at their big losses and what happened there, and I watch people who analyze the film, and they're just saying because Fitzpatrick didn't really do anything too crazy against the Patriots to get those touchdowns. They were just doing basic slant routes and stuff like that, and the Patriots couldn't keep up with those receivers. So how are they supposed to keep up with Kansas City receivers? How are they supposed to keep up with Ravens receivers? It's hard for me to see the Patriots going that far again. But just like that nightmare I had last night, Tom Brady looking over me going, "We're winning." Yeah, it would be quite the nightmare to see them at the Super Bowl again.
Yep, it would be. I would not watch that Super Bowl probably. Just kidding, I would, but
yeah,
because I'll be like, oh, they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose. I'll be things are gonna kick their butts.
And then Drew Brees will come up and be like, "I'm not playing this game. Teddy Bridgewater, you're in." And then, everyone everyone at the casinos. What the big casino place? Las Vegas.
Gambling.
Everyone at Las Vegas tears up their sheets and go, "I'm going home," and they fly home.
Yep.
That's the end of the story there. Who's more likely to win in the last few seconds, Tom Brady or Drew Brees?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
It's not even close.
Well, he couldn't do it against the Dolphins.
Many times too. So.
All right, my dude. Well, I think that was a good conversation myself.
Yes, I agree with that.
Only time will tell who's right and who's wrong. We mostly had the same thoughts about things until it got to the Green Bay Packers, and then things kind of split. But I think it's going to be interesting. I think this year is probably the most interesting year for the playoffs in a while. And
yes.
I think the right teams have made it this far. I think so. There's a few teams like the Eagles or something like that I don't agree with being on here, but I think this is the best bracket we've seen in a while.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think we're excited because we have a feeling deep down that Patriots aren't going to be in it. Because based off of what they produced on the field all season. So I think we're just excited about that. I swear, Patriots come out winning against Titans 50-0. I will cry.
Well, I think we're also invested in a lot of these teams. The Chiefs, you love the Chiefs. Ravens have been a huge part of the media this whole year. Texans, one of my favorite teams this year. 49ers, obviously one of the most explosive teams this year. One of the great, these teams that you didn't expect to be this good this year because of last year. Seahawks, another good, another one of your favorite teams. Vikings, one of the teams that I've been following this year, and the Saints, of course, the team that we both follow. So there's a lot of teams that we love in this bracket, and it's just sad that the Browns couldn't be there.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that. Probably we'll round out the year of football when we do our Super Bowl, official Super Bowl prediction, which will be when the Super Bowl, of course, when the teams are announced who are going to be in the Super Bowl. We'll be doing a podcast then, and we'll also talk about our favorite teams from the year, our least favorite teams from the year, and what can happen next year. So look forward to that when that happens. And then after the Super Bowl happens, we'll be back. Nick and I will be back after the Super Bowl talking more football. So,
talk about the Browns circle of suck.
Our hopes and dreams on a tombstone.
Here lies us. Cleveland Browns.
All right, so if you haven't already, check out Film Freaks. Both of us are on that podcast, along with Taymation Studios and Coco Gamer, if you want to check that out. Other podcasts that I'm doing right now, YemmyTheFerret and YemmyCast. You can check both those out on all the different platforms, as you know. Live streaming now on Twitch, twitch.tv/YemmytheFerret. Join in for some good times. Nick, is there anything else you need to say before we head out?
Yes, if the NFL officials, if you're listening to this, please do not mess up the games. I do not want a blown call, some stupid pass interference call deciding the game. I do not want some, this receiver didn't take 10 steps to get the football, so it's a fumble. No.
This quarterback was running, so he was able to get targeted.
Oh my God. Please, just call the game how it is and get out of the way, like you said earlier. Just get out of the way. Right. I don't want the Patriots winning because of some stupid, pass interference calls.
5 holding calls in a row on the Titans, That's
yeah. So right. Please, officials, if you're listening, just don't.
All right, well,
go Browns.
Yeah, go Browns. By this time, of course, both of the wild card games will have been played for the Bills and the Titans games, and then we'll be, of course, looking forward to the Sunday games, which is the Seahawks versus Saints on that day. So this is coming out.
Eagles and then Saints versus Vikings.
Well, I was just saying one from each game.
Well, you said versus, so
I didn't mean it. So this is being recorded before both those games. It will be released before the Seahawks and the Vikings and the Saints and the Eagles battle it out for the next seed. So thanks everyone for listening. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you guys had a great holiday. Podcast will be back in regular form on Wednesdays next week, of course, or this week technically if you're thinking about it. And it's going to be a big supersized episode on Wednesday because there's a lot to talk about that happened during the holiday season. So thank you everyone for listening. I am YemmytheFerret, and I've been here with
GreedyWaffle.
And this has been YemmyCast, a NFL/video game podcast.
See ya.